Slave DiBiase.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and good night, depending on whenever you digest this content, whether religiously or in passing. I just want to tell you thank you. Thank you for pulling up. You could have been anywhere in the world for your 420 sesh, but you're here with your boy. And this is another live episode of the Offenders Initiative podcast. I am your illustrious host, Slave DiBiase, aka Slathaniel Richards, aka Victor Von Slay, aka Tony Spark. And we are here. Another sesh day, y'all. Another sesh day. Y'all see the comments. Y'all see the comments. Oh, y'all thought I was just in the power and shit like that? Yeah, nah. I told y'all, I love TV shows where there is no job security. What do I mean? Shows like Sons of Anarchy, shows like Power, shows like Game of Thrones. And I am here to review. We just had a new prequel to Game of Thrones drop called A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Episode 1, it dropped last night. This is the tale of Sir Duncan and Young Egg. You know what I'm talking about? And I am a big fan of the Game of Thrones universe, the TV shows. I haven't read any of the books, but we all can admit that the last couple of seasons of OG Game of Thrones was trash. I kind of got over it since season 1 and season 2 of Game of Thrones House of the Dragon has now come out. You know, we waiting on season 3 of that. Love that show. You feel me? So yeah, I love that show, man. Y'all tell me in the comments, did y'all check it out when it came out? Has anybody seen the first episode of A Knights of the Seven Kingdoms? You feel me? I love the first episode. It's not like what we were used to. So we might have to, you know what I'm saying, give a little bit of grace with this one. I'm not going to lie to y'all. We might have to give a little bit of grace of this one. Again, has anybody out there seen the first episode yet? Tell me in the comments if you was messing with it or not. We're going to react to the first episode by way of Emergency Awesome. Matter of fact, yeah, Emergency Awesome. Yeah. And give those guys a good like, comment, and subscribe. Emergency Awesome. We love those guys and all the great work that they do over there. Without further ado, let's get into it.
It's Charlie. This will be my full Game of Thrones Night of the Seven Kingdoms episode 1 video. There are a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references to both Game of Thrones, the original main series, and to House of the Dragon because of the way this all fits in the timeline. So we will break it all down, and I will be doing episode videos for the entire season. Be sure to subscribe if you're brand new to the channel. Everybody grab your tournament gear. It's time for a proper tournament arc in Game of Thrones. The title of episode 1 is The Hedge Knight. It's a reference to both the title of the novella.
Not gonna lie to y'all, when the episode first jumped off and we found out that Sir Duncan was supposed to be like a legit knight, he looked kind of dirty to me, and he didn't come off very knightish, if you will. Hence the name The Hedge Knight. I think The Hedge Knight is referring to a person who lives and sleeps and shits in the bushes.
That it's adapting from the Tales of Dunk and Egg. The entire series, across all the different seasons that they do, will be adapted from George R. R. Martin's Tales of Dunk and Egg. The collected works are referred to as A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which they're using for the title of the series now. But the title of book 1 is The Hedge Knight. Within the context of the actual story, it's a reference to both Sir Duncan the Tall and Sir Arlen of Pennytree, his original master. Within the world of Westeros and Game of Thrones, a hedge knight is a wandering knight without a master. Landed knights are the ones that you see working for lords at castles. In comparison, hedge knights travel the length and breadth of the Seven Kingdoms looking for gainful employment, basically a wandering knight who just goes from different lord to lord looking for temporary work before he goes on to the next lord. But the reason why people in the...
I like my definition better. A knight who shits in the bushes. I like it better.
world of Westeros call them hedge knights, specifically. Like, why the word hedge is because most of their worldly wealth is in their arms. Like, they're very poor generally compared to regular knights, and generally they have to sleep outdoors, often under a hedge. So a lot of small folk and
Okay.
lords use it as a derogatory term when talking about hedge knights, as to call them lesser forms of knights in the Seven.
See, that's what I was saying. That a knight who shits in the bushes. Let's stop playing like that's not what that really means. He tried to give it that real nice definition. Good looking, Charlie, but it's a hedge knight. A hedge knight is a dirty motherfucker who sleeps in the bushes.
Kingdoms compared to landed knights or even the Kingsguard, who are meant to be the best of the best knights. Just to explain where this show fits in the timeline of House of the Dragon and the original Game of Thrones series, it's basically right smack dab in the middle between those two shows. It's about 78 years after the end of House of the Dragon, and it's 89 years before Game of Thrones Episode 1.
I'm wondering if we're gonna get like some Easter eggs to how House of the Dragon actually ends, because like he just said, this show takes place in the middle. It's in between the gap of House of the Dragon and leading into episode 1 of Game of Thrones. So I wonder if we're going to get Easter eggs leading towards both of those original series. That would be fire.
Even though that is a very long time, there are a couple characters who are still alive from this period on Night of the Seven Kingdoms during the original Game of Thrones series. They're just extremely old. We'll talk about them as we go along through the episodes. Some of them might eventually actually appear on the show. The series also takes place about 13 years after the first Blackfire Rebellion, so you have to remember that in the realm right now, just the vibe of everything amongst the small folk in the realm is that they've been.
And I'm being rude. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and tell me in the comments what you're smoking on today. And if you're a big fan of the Game of Thrones universe, I'm about to light up this pre-roll and let's get to it.
Been through two very brutal civil wars based on the Targaryen family. But at the moment, Daeron II is still the reigning king, and he is a relatively popular king, but there have been many changes in the Targaryen family since the events of House of the Dragon to maintain its hold on Westeros and just generally the state of things, because during this period in Westeros, the last dragon has already long since died. So one of the big questions that the show answers is, how does the Targaryen family maintain its control of Westeros if they don't have the threat of dragons to hold over everyone? And speaking of Blackfire Rebellion, I know I use my Blackfire sword. It's a book accurate version.
That sword look heavy as shit, even as a collector's type situation. Yo, Charlie, you a real fan, my boy. Salute to you for that. But yeah, my earliest prediction, seeing as though it's so far off into the future, probably everybody from that original House Targaryen that we see in House of the Dragon, that cast that we're loving so far, I think everybody's dead, and they probably didn't die in the greatest of ways.
Version of Blackfire that I was holding up at the beginning of the video, the Targaryens no longer have that in their possession, the reigning Targaryens. That was taken with the Blackfire Pretenders that then escaped to form the Golden Company after the Blackfire Rebellions. So neither one of the swords that I have right now, Longclaw, as was wielded by Jon Snow with his special hilt, and Blackfire, actually exist in that form on the show right now. But there's still a number of Valyrian weapons, Valyrian swords, that people around the realm have during this period. Dunk, however, is not one of them. He is dirt poor, and a lot of the series is based on him dealing with that fact, being dirt poor, and still trying to accomplish all of his goals. The episode starts just like the Hedge Knight book starts, and a lot of the actual episode, it just rips the page right onto the screen, like they say exactly what the characters say in the book. It's one of the most book-accurate adaptations so far.
Not gonna lie to you, this started off rough, but it started off very, very very soft and sweet. Like, it got to get dirtier and bloodier later. This episode started off way too nice. This episode in itself was way too nice.
Next to the early seasons of the original Game of Thrones series.
The inn boy ate the widow woman's pie. Not me.
This is also why George R. R. Martin has been hyping it up so much, because it is so much more book accurate than, say, like House of the Dragon, which he's been complaining about season 2 and season 3 of that show so far. But the episode starts with him bearing Sir Arlen of Pennytree, who he'd been squired to since he was a boy, basically raised him to eventually, hopefully, become a knight. There are a couple funny references to that in whether or not Sir Arlen actually did knight him, or if Dunk is trying to lie his way into the tourney. We'll get to that in a second, too. Even though there are many flashbacks that we get to Sir Arlen when
these flashbacks, as you watch the show, would lead you to believe that Sir Duncan never really was knighted. He just kind of took his master's sword and kind of started doing his own thing. Because he beats on the boy the entire time while he's coming up. Everything he do wrong, Sir Arlen is smacking fire out of him. He's smacking fire and brimstone out of that fool as soon as he messes up. I can't believe you did that. Mom, the whole screen go white. Be one of those. You know what I'm saying? So right now, I'm along with everybody else. Did he actually get knighted, or did he just take his master's sword and make himself a knight? Did he kill Sir Arlen? Maybe he got tired of that man smacking him around. It's another one.
He was alive, and when Dunk was younger, the show never actually picks a side. And this is actually how George R. R. Martin wrote it in the books. He never outright confirms whether or not Dunk was lying about being knighted. But there have been a couple things that HBO has let out in their marketing that I think kind of leans in one particular direction that we'll talk about in a second when we get to that moment on the actual episode. But when he's eulogizing Sir Arlen as he's burying him in the ground, and we get those flashbacks, all those moments, his dialogue, are taken directly from the book. We see their three horses. It's Sweetfoot, Chestnut, and Thunder. Thunder is the one that Dunk rides. It's his horse. The other two were Sir Arlen's horses. The horses themselves are also important characters on the show. Like Ghost is an important character to Jon Snow. So is Thunder, for instance, and the other horses to Dunk. Like we see Dunk later in the episode talking to Thunder, and the horse seemingly replying back to him as if it understands what he's saying. But after thinking about his prospects and what is going to be next for him in life, like what he could possibly do, he gets the idea that if he could win the tournament at Ashford, which they were headed to, Sir Arlen died on the way to the tournament because he was going to compete in it, because you have to be a knight to compete in the tournament. If Dunk can win the tournament, one of the great lords might take him into their house as a landed knight into his service, fulfilling his lifelong dream of becoming a knight. That is literally the only thing that Dunk wants in this world. He wants to be a knight, just like Brienne of Tarth during the main show. There'll be a lot of light Easter eggs and connections to Brienne of Tarth throughout the episodes because he's meant to be the ancestor of Brienne of Tarth. During A Song of Ice and Fire and during the events of Game of Thrones, Brienne of Tarth uses Dunk's coat of arms when she's traveling across Westeros to stay incognito instead of using the House Tarth sigil, because Dunk's armor and his coat of arms wound up in her father's treasury on Tarth.
Okay, hold on. Okay, so no wonder she's so tall, because she grew up. She's one of the ancestors of Sir Duncan the Tall. She looked just like him. Makes sense to me. And Brienne of Tarth, when I tell you she was tough, bruh, she was tougher than some dudes in the original Game of Thrones. I'm a big Brienne of Tarth fan. She wasn't going. I just gave you that much.
Brienne grew up knowing about Sir Duncan the Tall, who was one of the greatest knights in Westerosi history. Joffrey literally talks about him in the White Book. Eventually, he becomes one of the Kingsguard, but obviously this show is meant to be his origins. How does he go from here, where you see him at the beginning?
So that right there, they just told you a little bit of history. He's going to go on to becoming one of the greats. He will. But I guarantee you, we're going to see some weird stuff happen to him on the way there. I can't wait as long as they write it the right way.
Of episode 1 with nothing to his name to becoming one of the greatest knights in Westerosi history. So much so that there are 4 pages about him in the White Book. But his quest to become a knight, to embody the goodness and the honor that is to be a true knight, is a lot like Brienne during the events of the main series. So he's meant to feel very similar to Brienne. This is why there was an episode of Game of Thrones Season 8, one of the best episodes of Season 8, one of the only good episodes of Season 8, called A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, which shares the name of the collected Tales of Dunk and Egg because of the connection between their characters, and because A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is part of the oath that you recite when you are knighted. We will actually hear a version of that on this show, truncated, but there will be a character that will get knighted later, so they'll recite the oath again during that. George R. R. Martin has also talked about this in the past too. He actually came up with the idea for Dunk's character while he was writing backstory and doing more research for Brienne during the events of Game of Thrones. George does this a lot, where he'll go off on tangents and create massive amounts of lore, like Fire and Blood, for instance, while he's doing research and creating more lore for his main A Song of Ice and Fire novels. That's basically how the Tales of Dunk and Egg were born. He started doing research and then fleshed it out into a bigger story, and eventually that turned into the Tales of Dunk and Egg because he wanted to.
George R. R. Martin, salute to you, sir. Salute to your nerd brain that when You go to doing research on one thing. That's an ADHD brain for you. You go to searching for one thing, you end up doing a million other things just to come back to that one thing. Yeah, salute to you, brother. Let those ideas come out because we love this universe. Again, I haven't read any of the books, but I do love the shows.
Right backstory about where Brienne got this armor from, where she was trying to disguise herself. Like, well, it belonged to this Sir Duncan the Tall. Well, how did Sir Duncan the Tall get the armor in the first place? And you get this whole origin story with them.
King's Landing, Lannisport.
So you have to remember that George R. R. Martin didn't write a lot of this backstory for this character earlier in the timeline, like Egg here also, until later after he'd written a couple of the Song of Ice and Fire novels. After Dunk decides to go to the tourney at Ashford and try to win, he takes Sir Arlen's armor, but it's too small to fit him, which is why he's wearing a belt of rope, because there are literally no belts that could fit him. Takes his sword, his armor, and his horses. Just to explain where we are in Westeros here, Ashford is here towards the south, near the top of the Dornish Marches here, like north of the Dornish Marches, but still in the Reach. House Ashford is a vassal house of the Tyrells.
Yeah, see, all of this is real foreign, but it's fleshing out. Everybody that's been here since the beginning of the very first Game of Thrones, when it first came on HBO, there were certain areas of the universe that we hadn't touched yet. So now it's just fleshing out more of that lore, man. We love it.
But remember, the really important thing here is that they never show you whether or not Sir Arlen actually verbally knighted him before he died, or even made a reference to motion that he might knight him at some point. That was actually a really funny moment, too, where you get a moment later where he asks him point blank, so you're going to turn me into a knight at some point? And Sir Arlen literally says nothing, just like spits out the other direction. We
Oh,
get that
yeah.
funny moment with a little bit of Ramin Djawadi's Game of Thrones music to make you think that they're going to reuse the theme song again, but then stopping it short with him literally taking a dump just to show you some of the humor of the story. I'm sure that'll land all over the spectrum. Like, you either kind of love this humor or you hate it.
I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Not really a fan of the hating because the humor, because they started off like he's like, I'm gonna go to do the tournament in my master's place, and I'll find a place as a real landed knight. They start playing the music. Ding, 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 and you like, oh shit. Just for them to flip the goddamn next scene, and he's behind this tree right here, as you see him right now, taking a shit. You literally, the HBO with their graphic nasty asses show you the shit flying out of his ass. And mind you, there ain't no toilet paper nowhere. So what did he wipe his ass with? You let me know.
But I don't think this is the show saying that Ramin Djawadi is crap. Like, they're not trying to crap on him, literally. Like, they're just having a little bit of fun. We get the title overlaid with the episode itself, and that is close as you get to an actual intro scene in probably one of the biggest changes from the other Game of Thrones related series, the original main series and House of the Dragon. There is no complicated, involved intro with a ton of its own Easter eggs. A lot of my House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones videos were like literally just breaking down the portion of the intro, zooming, enhancing, looking for all the different changes.
Now hold on, that's only episode 1. That's not to say they're not gonna flip it and do this for episode 2. So, you know, let's not mess up tradition. But if they didn't, would anybody really be mad if we didn't get one of these type of intros that's all intricate with the music that we love? Y'all let me know.
Soon after, he arrives at the inn on the way to Ashford and meets Egg, the young boy, believing him to be the stable boy and the innkeeper's son, and asks him to take care of the horses, with a couple jokes here. Notice how precocious he is. That is because he is a very learned little boy, way more learned than a normal small folk might be. But a lot of the comedy of the series comes from Dunk just being very unassuming and not thinking that anybody is actually lying to him. Like, he just believes in the goodness of people. So people often take advantage of that for good and for worse.
Oh, man.
So this is why he doesn't poke a lot of hole in what Egg is telling him. Their dialogue when they first meet is also right out of the book when they first meet. The man who's passed out inside the inn is Daeron Targaryen, Daeron the Drunken. He's the oldest son of Maekar Targaryen the First, who's a little bit lower in the line of succession at the moment. He has many children himself too. At the moment in Westeros, there are many, many members of the Targaryen family inside.
I think Egg might be one of them Targaryen kids too. Again, never read none of the books, haven't done no research. Just why he don't have no hair? You know what I'm saying?
The royal family, like many, many of them, but they still have no dragons. When he wakes up suddenly and says, "I dream of you," notice he's white Targaryen hair. He pays with a Targaryen stamped coin. They're the reigning house, so their symbol would be on all the coin that they have, of course. But the dream that Daron is talking about is a dragon dream. He's meant to be like Helena, and the reason why he's so drunken, like why it's so infamously drunken all the time, is because of the dragon dreams. He doesn't want to have them. He's trying to subdue them. You can't turn off dragon dreams, like they'll come no matter what, but you can actually mute them just a little bit. But the dream he's referring to is the dream he dreamed of Dunk's future. Is both a reference to Dunk during this season encountering and dealing with the Targaryens at the tourney at Ashford. They also kind of use Tanzel Too Tall's play about the puppet dragon in the night as a metaphor for Dunk's journey during season 1.
That play was kind of fire as well, man. Just this was a warm-up episode, y'all.
But I also think that Daron's dragon dream is a bit of a reference to the end of Dunk's life in the tragedy at Summerhall. We can't talk too much about that until we know more about Egg's character, and there's going to be a big reveal with him in a couple episodes. We will just wait to talk about that until they reveal it in the episode. Like, we don't want to get too far ahead of the show.
Close your lips, look, man.
Nah, I'm getting ahead. He don't have no eyebrows or no hair. He look like a cancer patient. He's a Targaryen. I'm telling you, he's got to be. The fact that he doesn't have any color to him, like, that's going to be the big twist.
There are probably a number of you that are watching this video that have not read the original book. If you do want to read the Hedge Knight book for season 1, it's like a 2-hour read. It's extremely short, very breezy. You can literally read it in under a couple hours. But remember, here in this moment, Dunk knows nothing of dragon dreams. He doesn't even know they exist or they're a thing. He doesn't recognize Daron as one of the royals either. He just notices he looks kind of strange and then thinks nothing of it. Later, the scene of him catching Egg on Thunder, playing a knight, is also right out of the book. The scene of Egg clocking him instantly that he doesn't appear to be an actual knight as well, too. Notice, very precocious, he recognizes that he is not a knight.
Hey, that little boy called him all the way out there. He was like, "You ain't no real knight." He was like, "But, I'll roll with you anyway, just because I see you trying and all of that. And I keep you out of trouble." The little boy was putting him on to certain things that he didn't know as a grown damn man. You need him around.
Because Egg has met all the great knights in the realm, which Dunk later makes fun of him for, like, have you met all the great knights? And the truth is, yes, he has actually literally met all the greatest knights. He asks to become his squire because Egg genuinely does want to become a knight someday. We can't really talk about Egg too much. He's definitely hiding a secret here. We will find out about that, like the show will reveal that in a couple episodes. But when he starts asking about Dunk's father, Dunk is a bastard that was born in Flea Bottom. He grew up in Flea Bottom until Sir Arlen found him and brought him into his service and made him his squire. But they never revealed, like George R. R. Martin has never revealed who Dunk's father actually was. He was probably either a lesser noble or a very wealthy merchant. We're going to get a couple more flashbacks that will show his mother in Flea Bottom, so we'll get a little bit more of child Dunk in Flea.
Getting born in a neighborhood called Flea Bottom, that's bullshit in itself.
Bottom eventually. Then you notice that the coin that Dunk tosses Egg has the 7-pointed star stamped on it. This will also become important because of the metaphor of the faith of the 7 and the trial of 7 in later episodes this season. There are a couple other references to the 7 later in this episode too. Dunk then arrives the next morning at the tournament. Notice you can start spotting the banners of most of the familiar great houses we've seen in the House of the Dragon, the original Game of Thrones series. There'll be a couple new ones that we haven't seen on the other shows too, but most of the houses that are involved in this tournament, you've seen in some form on one of the shows already. This is the symbol of House Ashford. Their motto is, "Our sun shines bright." The master of the games he meets with is Plumber the Steward, who has a little bit of fun with him. Love the bit about the nasty Ashford.
The nasty Ashford chair. My man right here tells Sir Duncan, he says, "Hey man, if you're lying, bro, they gonna string you up and they gonna put you on, they gonna make you sit down on this point and it's gonna go up your ass and kill you." I said, "Man, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about? Why is it always ass play? Y'all medieval motherfuckers was real funny."
Ashford chair, like whatever you do, don't wind up in that nasty Ashford chair. He basically gives him the rules, as well as us, the audience, the rules for actually competing in a tournament of Westeros. So if you lose, then the winner can ransom your armor and your horse back to them. Either you have to pay for it, or he just gets to write off and keep it if you can't pay for it to get back. They have a couple of jokes about whether or not Sir Arlen actually did knight him. He reminds Dunk that he needs to have proper armor, and Sir Arlen's armor...
See, the more and more we talk about this makes me think that Sir Arlen never really knighted him. And the fact that even in the book, it's left open as to whether Sir Arlen really knighted him. That's letting me know he probably didn't, and he coming up here playing uptown games.
Is too small to fit him, meaning that he's going to have to get new armor, which is going to be really expensive. And he's going to have to find another lord at the tournament. Doesn't have to be a great lord, just has to be a lord to vouch for him. And he gets the idea for Manfred Dondarrion because Sir Arlen actually worked for his father as a hedge knight a long time ago during a battle. Then we meet the Fossaways, Stefan Fossaway, who is a total crapbag, who's fighting his younger cousin Raymond Fossaway, who's his squire, and becomes one of Dunk's first friends.
Bruh, them squires, they like little servant boys. Motherfucker tell you to shut up and stop talking to somebody, you got to shut up and stop talking. I would never be nothing like that.
The reason why they make all the references to not being ripe, rotten to the core, is because their house sigil, the Fossaway house sigil, is a red apple. Dunk sets up camp nearby in the stream in the woods. Notice when he goes to speak with Lord Dondarrion again, he sees one of the girls dressed up like she's dead, implying that Lord Dondarrion or whichever men that they're currently about to see tonight are into that kind of kink. No kink shaming. We won't do any kink shaming.
Oh, we are doing it here. No, that's nasty. So they dressed up this dead body for one of those royal cats to come over here and just defile her. Sounds like probably what they do in the, you know what, I ain't gonna go there.
Here. Then later that night, he sees Tanzel Too Tall's puppet show. She's a puppeteer from Dorne, very good puppeteer, and her play, if you listen to the words, are used as a metaphor for Dunk's quest. The whole idea is that it's a night, like a random night. This isn't meant to be an actual event from real-life Westerosi history she's depicting. It's just like a fictional night she created. But it's a night that's trying to kill a dragon, not subdue him or tame the dragon. And the whole idea is the dragon finds out the secret that the knight is keeping, then he'll be dead. And it's meant to be a metaphor for Dunk, who is hiding a secret. Maybe he might not be a real knight. Maybe he's lying about being a knight. And if the Targaryens learn about it, he will be dead.
Must keep a truth concealed.
I think this is the show leaning a little bit further into the territory that Dunk was not actually knighted. Like without
Nah, you think? I mean, anybody here that's been sitting here watching this this recap with us, are y'all now starting to feel that maybe Dunk wasn't really knighted? Like he just pulled up and tried to get his little 1-2 on? I'm sorry.
Absolutely confirming it. Like it's still kind of a question, but it does feel like the show is kind of leaning in the direction that he was lying. There'll be a couple other famous stories about real life Westerosi people that Tanzel does plays about later during these future episodes. He meets Raymond Fossaway again, and they strike up their friendship, lets him know that he wants to but can't compete in the tournament because he's only a squire to his cousin Stefan, but he would like to actually compete. This will be important for later. Then they go to Lionel Baratheon's pavilion, who's the current lord of Storm's End, which is massive because he's so wealthy.
This fool here was a whole asshole when Dunk pulled up on him. He was on some, yo, this is my party. If you a knight, you shouldn't be in my shit. He said, unless you brought me some bitches or some money or something like that, we ain't got nothing to talk about. He said, so why you here? That boy Dunk was like, shit, I saw there was food in here. From then on, these two motherfuckers start dancing. And I guess like guys dancing together or they had a dance battle. There we go. They battle danced.
He's one of the most powerful great lords in the realm, so really easy way to get a free dinner from one of the richest lords in the realm. The reason why he's called the Laughing Storm is because he starts laughing loudly at his opponents when they start fighting in the Joust in the Lists or in other matches. He's about as tall as Dunk, maybe like a little bit shorter when they're dancing. They're having a little dance off. Dance off, bro. Going full Star-Lord. But the idea is they're both meant to be huge. He's meant to give you a lot of vibes of Robert Baratheon when Robert was younger. Loves fighting, loves wars, loves partying, loves women, and just loves having fun.
See?
Terrible, terrible king, but an amazing friend to have. When he mentions the story from 4,000 years ago, that's to talk about how jousting was invented, but timeline-wise, that would put it around the Andal invasion, which is also relevant to this show, the Andal invasion, because they brought the custom, the Trial of Seven, with them. Trial by combat had already been a thing. Basically, the big event of this series, the big WTF moment, is the Trial of Seven in later episodes.
Okay.
Even though he is drunk as a skunk, he clocks Dunk in the middle of the crowd because he's so tall. He just sticks up like a weed. calls him over and begins to befriend him, but notice he starts laughing at him, starts making fun of him because he's trying to suss him out and he's not sure why Dunk is here. He thinks he's like one of the other sycophantic lords who just wants something from Lionel because he's so powerful.
Right.
And once he learns that Dunk is only there to get the free dinner, he really starts to open up, like they really start to become friends. Like, oh, this is so refreshing. You're not here to try and actually get anything out of me. We get that full-on Westerosi dance-off bros, and even though Raymond Fossaway is like technically the first friend that he made, because he hasn't actually made friends.
He kind of gives me Tywin Lannister vibes too. The midget who always drank and knew things.
With Egg yet. I would normally call Egg the first friend that he made, but that doesn't really happen till the end of the episode. If Raymond is the first friend that he actually makes, like the first new friend, then Lionel Baratheon, one of the most powerful lords in the realm next to the Targaryen family, is his second friend, and a very good friend, it seems like. Notice he gives him the story about Storm and the bravery, like riding into the storm. It's meant to be a mirror for Dunk's story, having to show bravery in the face of what happens to him in the next few episodes when shit really gets real. One of the other clear markers.
Now, see, Dunk got on some armor right here, right? Hold on.
In the next few episodes.
Yeah, so he don't look dirty the entire time.
Really gets real. One of the other clear markers here that he really likes Dunk is that he lets him wear his crown of antlers. That is huge. Normally, that would get your head chopped off if you.
He definitely did let Dunk rock the crown of antlers. They were dance battling, drinking. They had girls' food. It looked like it was a good time for real.
Did something like that. He winds up spotting Manfred Dondarrion also at the tent at the party, who treats him like crap and turns him away. We get another Sir Arlen flashback to the battle that he fought for Lord Dondarrion, and basically another faceful of how rotten some of the lords in Westeros can be. So Dunk is kind of meeting the entire spectrum of lords here, like the really good lords, the guys that are really cool, really nice, and the guys that are really terrible. And right after Manfred treats him like crap and kicks him on his way, he goes back to see that Egg has set up camp, and it's meant to be an example.
Now, mind you, we see Egg earlier in the episode in a whole nother town, whole nother spot. He ends up making his way all the way over here. He finds Sir Dunk himself and all of that. This kid got something with him.
Of someone, we'll say someone for right now because they haven't revealed who Egg actually is, being good to Dunk, doing something nice for him. You also notice some of the tricky dialogue that Egg uses. Egg is like a very, very precocious, very intelligent young boy. He says he's from King's Landing, but he is not from Flea Bottom, meaning that he's from another, richer part of King's Landing. And probably one of the other most important parts of the episode here is that Egg literally winds up being the one to give Dunk a proper name. Duncan, as in not just Dunk, because the whole reason why he's called Dunk is because when Sir Arlen found him in Flea Bottom when he was a little boy, he had no name. His mother hadn't even given him a name. Sir Arlen just started calling him Dunk, and that was it. Just Dunk, nothing else. It wasn't short for anything else. His little name was just Dunk for most of his life until Egg meets him and says, "What about Duncan? Why didn't you go by Duncan?" And
because Egg asked him when he first met him, he was like, "Is Dunk short for Duncan?" He lied and was like, "Yeah, this fool is a lie." Hell nah, Sir Arlen ain't knight that fool, man. He be lying.
He's like, yes, that actually sounds like a good name. I will call myself Duncan now.
Is it short for Duncan?
See?
Yeah.
When Egg says he knows all the good knights in the realm, he is correct. He's actually met them literally, like he knows them personally. And then Dunk allows him to squire for him, and they start what becomes one of the best friendships in Westerosi history. They basically become each other's ride or dies over their lifetime. When he promises not to beat him except when he deserves it, that's also a sly reference, like a wink back at what Sir Arlen did for him. Like, he never beat me except when I deserved it. Then as they lie looking at the stars, they spot the falling star, which they take as a portent for good luck. It's not meant to be the same red comet like the falling star that Daenerys and all the other characters later in Game of Thrones wind up seeing, though. Completely different falling star. It'll wind up being important for Dunk's new coat of arms that he has to create, because even though he has Sir Arlen's shield, he can't use Sir Arlen's coat of arms. The only way you could do that is if he was the biological son or the biological relative of Sir Arlen.
Right.
So the idea now is that once Sir Dunk is able to get someone to vouch for him, he has to actually create a coat of arms for himself. Everybody post all your reactions in the comments.
All right, y'all. Salute Charlie, man, for everything awesome. Do y'all think Dunk is actually going to get another Lord to vouch for him next episode. Do we think that that's going to happen for him? I certainly hope so. I will be planted Sunday evening to watch that episode 2 of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Now, pivoting on to all my blurs out there, my Marvel folks. I know we've been getting a lot of talk about Avengers Doomsday. By the way, I hope y'all still smoking because I am. I know we've been getting a lot of talk about leaks from Avengers Doomsday, but now I'm getting a couple of little fillers out there, little ears out there for some leaks for Secret Wars. Because as you know, Avengers Doomsday is shot. They're in the middle of rewriting and reshoots right now, but they're filming, or they're supposed to be filming Secret Wars right along with that to go ahead and get everything up and running. There are some new plot leaks for Secret Wars. Are y'all ready? Let's take a look. This is by way of everything always. Give them a like, comment, and subscribe. Let's react.
What's coming in the next couple of weeks or on the same day at the Super Bowl? We're going to do everybody's favorite thing and look way ahead past the Avengers movie that's still a year away and talk about a new group of details that was shared for Avengers Secret Wars. Of course, we'll issue the normal spoiler warning, read through them in full, talk about where they're coming from, and then try to add context for what it must mean about how Avengers Doomsday is going to end. We're breaking it all down, but first, if you could grab the subscribe button. Thanks to everyone who's been subbing lately and helped grow the community and channel. If you haven't already, if you enjoyed this type of content, whether this is your first time finding us or you've been rocking with us for a while, I would just kindly invite you to hit the subscribe button. It's the #1 way to support us. Plus, it'll automatically enter you for all the giveaways. Just be a sub, leave a comment, stick around at the end of the video. We get into all the giveaway stuff again there. Okay, so first up, the normal spoiler warning at the channel. Whenever we cover these kind of leaks, just remember to take everything that doesn't come from Marvel Studios with a grain of salt. We, of course, have a bit of a hierarchy list here, how we dole out revenue.
No, believe it all. Because I feel like they're going to pull out all the stops for Secret Wars. Believe it all or believe none of it.
Obviously, there were industry insiders like Daniel RPK and Jeff Snyder, and some Hollywood trades like The Hollywood Reporter and Deadline that have established track records of their own. Today's scoop is coming from a lesser-known Twitter scoopster that has shown up right around Avengers Doomsday, as many scoopers do, and because of that, we don't have a track record to go off of. Today's scoop's coming from the Twitter scoopster Majestic. You guys can follow him on Twitter at Majestic_UCM. Take that as you will. Let's dive into these brand new details for the plot of Avengers Secret Wars. It's reportedly set 8 years after Avengers Doomsday, which means they're going to go into Battleworld at the end of the film, and then there's going to be an extended period of time, and that's exactly like the
8 years after Doomsday. And this is how we could very well get a grown-up version of the T'Challa Jr. Damson Idris as Black Panther. If we don't get him in Doomsday, we're definitely with that time jump of 8 years, because there's no telling what time period Doomsday is actually going to take place in. And it's going to be 8 years after that for Secret Wars. He's definitely going to be aged up. That's how we get our new Black Panther, y'all.
15 Jonathan Hickman Secret Wars run that picked up exactly 8 years after the final incursion. And if that detail is true, perhaps the other key detail that picking up 8 years in, most people do not remember the world before Battleworld. It's as if that's what's always been. That may be the same case when we pick up in Secret Wars in the MCU. Now, the next detail shared is it draws apparently from both comic runs in 1984 and the 2015 Secret Wars comics. And while I think that's very believable because of how Marvel Studios have approached all of their comic book stories, keep in mind they have never had a problem changing major details and or fitting things together that maybe don't make sense in order to form their own version of the story. And so while it says it's going to draw from the 1984 and the 2015 Secret Wars comics, just like Avengers Endgame featured key moments from characters that they borrowed from other comic stories to work into Avengers Endgame, they're going to do the same thing here. It's safe to assume that there are a lot more stories than just Secret Wars that Jonathan Hickman wrote extensively for Marvel leading up to that crossover. There are a lot of key character moments for them to draw off of that aren't just in the Secret Wars comic. I will also mention that the Russo's affinity for Secret Wars that led them to want to talk about directing it about 10 years before they actually signed on to do so.
Now, I'm going to tell y'all something. Marvel is a little scared with having the Russos be in charge right now, because whatever that other movie that they did with Chris Pratt that is not a Marvel movie, it didn't do so well. So they're kind of scared of having them be in charge of Doomsday and Secret Wars. But honestly, there are certain situations where people are better in one situation than they are another. Just like you might have that one homeboy that's really, really good at Call of Duty, but he ass at everything else. Marvel and the Avengers is the Russo's Call of Duty. They can't do everything else. They ass at everything else. And they don't have the desire to get better. They're trying different shit, but it's just not working. But them working with Marvel and the Avengers, that's their Call of Duty. They're really, really, really good at it. Don't have them do nothing else because they're going to be ass.
Was driven from the original 1980s run. So you can imagine that in their taking this on as a modern project, they're going to be looking back at those vintage comics as well as basically the impetus for this excitement and seeing what moments and characters make sense in this new context. Now, the next bullet point is that all timelines will be collapsed into the void, and that's what will form Battleworld. And I'm assuming he means at the end of the film for Avengers Doomsday. Now, I'm going to put an asterisk by this because we've maintained at the channel through several theory videos that because of the images we already saw of Doctor Doom during the laser show that Marvel Studios officially signed off on for that international con, that Doctor Doom's already been working on Battleworld and already formed it. It doesn't seem to be in the void. It seems to be locked up in a stained glass case, the same stained glass window that we think we're looking through behind the Avengers logo at the end of the Avengers Doomsday trailers. Now, I may be wrong about that. And so if this is correct, it basically is implying a way different ending for Doomsday, where it's basically defeat Loki, take his seat on the throne, destroy what's left of the World Tree multiverse, and collapse everything into the void. I will also say, though, that Marvel Studios made sure to work a lot of build-up for Avengers Secret Wars into Deadpool and Wolverine, and they did feature the void. So a lot of theories have said this is where everything will end up for Battleworld. Perhaps there's some truth to that. It also says that
I kind of already knew that Battleworld was going to be made up of the void because again, when you look at Deadpool and Wolverine and you see all the remnants of those different universes, when you look at Loki season 1 and 2, when you look in the void, well, Loki season 1, and you look in the void, you see all those different remnants of universes. Doom is going to take all those shards and just make everything all in one. It's going to come together on the void. That's what's going to happen with that. I can't wait to see it. Look at them.
Infinity Stones will return and that the Soul Stone will play a key role. Now, on that last note,
hold on. The Infinity Stones will return in Secret Wars. Are we tired of seeing the Infinity Stones, or did we always know that they were probably coming back in some sort of way, shape, or fashion? I say they're going to come back as soon as the universe is soft rebooted and we get all of those different Marvel entities all on one Earth or whatever. The Infinity Stones are going to be back. The Darkhold is going to be back. Everything's going to be right back on the table as it should be. I like this.
That the Soul Stone may actually possess its own realm, the Soul Realm. We've seen Thanos go there, and there was a deleted scene for Tony Stark where he saw his daughter Morgan Stark, who was aged up right after he snapped at the end of Avengers Endgame. They may be referring to that, but what I will say is that a fully gemmed Infinity Gauntlet that may be the cause of Doctor Doom's creation in the first place when Tony was snapping is not that surprising to hear making a return, or at least the Infinity Stones making a return. If you remember from the 2015 Jonathan Hickman Secret Wars conclusion, the ghost of Doctor Strange gifts Black Panther and Namor 2 gifts, one of which is a fully gemmed Infinity Gauntlet that he uses to lead an army of zombies against God Emperor Doom and ultimately defeat him. So not a total shocker. Marvel Studios will go back to them, at least in some.
They would never do it, though.
Capacity, because how they've been established as an ultimate weapon, especially in this case. But also very worth mentioning that the Infinity Stones were the purpose behind the time heist in the first place, and it may have been the time heist that caused the first incursions or caused the loss of Doctor Doom's family. It might also be Steve Rogers returning the Infinity Stones, or what happened right after that might also be the cause. So the Infinity Stones presumably are going to play some role in Avengers Doomsday. Not surprising they carry over to Avengers Secret Wars. Now, it goes on to say that the main protagonists are the surviving Avengers, I'm supposing the ones that actually survived through to Battleworld, and the Champions, which is the young Avengers, none of the characters which we expect to feature in the upcoming Avengers Doomsday.
So the remaining Avengers and these younger Avengers that they've introduced, these people that we don't want stories about, they're going to be the people that's going to come and bring everybody together to save the day. That's what they're saying.
Also says that the Avengers will include Reed Richards, Wolverine, Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, and others under one team banner. Now, this is where we will refer back to an industry insider update coming from Daniel Rickman via his Patreon about 2 or 3 weeks ago, where he indicated there was a group of characters that might not be in Avengers Doomsday, but will play a major role.
Hold on. He said Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire. So is it going to be Tom Holland Spider-Man and Tobey Maguire Spider-Man? Or are those two different people? So that we don't know. We don't know.
In the follow-up Avengers Secret Wars, those included Deadpool, Wolverine, Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man. And in compiling of details for Avengers Secret Wars, there's no problem in taking this from Daniel RPK Scoop and including it in the list. Honestly, he's one of the more trusted or most trusted sources alongside Jeff Snyder at this point. It continues by saying that Dr. Doom builds a super prison to contain heroes, villains, and cosmic beings.
I can see
And
that.
Doom takes Sue Storm as his wife, and like the 2015 Jonathan Hickman run, has both Valeria and Franklin as his kids, obviously.
I can see that as well. If we do not get a properly fleshed out situation showing why Dr. Doom, Victor Von Doom, does not like Reed Richards, because it don't matter how you twist it, comic book, cartoon, live action, Reed Richards, Dr. Doom, they don't like each other. You can't just leave that out. So I can't wait till they figure out how they're going to figure that whole part out, because it sounded like he just stole my man's whole life, just stole Reed Richards' whole life here. Or maybe Reed stole his.
Valeria doesn't exist yet, but Franklin's already been born, and the film dives into Doom versus Reed as it should, revealing how a science magic project destroyed Victor's family. Survival from the multiverse collapse is only possible via the quantum realm or TVA ships created by Obi, and one mystery character unnamed will stand out.
The only way you can survive the multiverse crumbling is if you're in the quantum realm, or if you get on one of the life rafts built by the TVA, and the TVA agent Ouroboros, OB, the little Asian dude from Loki season 2, he builds life rafts. So we're probably going to see him in the movie too.
As a major presence. Now, the quantum realm being one of the one places you can go and run and hide as the multiverse collapses is something we hadn't yet covered from a plot leak about 2 weeks ago. I'm not really sure where that one originated. Again, we didn't have a chance yet to cover it at the channel, and so this may also be borrowing from that again as a compilation of all the details you can trust about the upcoming film. Of course, in the comics, we see Doom take Reed Richards' family as his own, and we've even speculated here at the channel as a theory video based on the post-credit scene from the Fantastic Four, and long before it seemingly has become confirmed that Doom's family may have been Sue Storm in another timeline, Franklin Richards may have been his kid. That may be what's driving him now as his ultimate motivator to create.
Again, maybe Reed took Doom's life.
Create a battle world, a reality where that's now true again. But the one part of this that I think maybe deserves its own video, but we'll talk about it right now because of how important it is to Victor Von Doom's character, but really Reed Richards as well because of their duality, is this saying that it's going to explore their rivalry. I have no idea how in a 3-hour film, I think it'll be less than 3 hours and 45 minutes, guys. I know that's a reported runtime, but even if it is, in one film, they're going to establish Victor Von Doom, his dichotomy with Reed Richards, their backstory, Victor Von Doom's obsession with Reed Richards, his constant need to try to one-up him and how that shaped Victor Von Doom's character, and then establish Reed Richards as growing out of the way he was written in the Fantastic Four. Don't get me wrong. At the same time, I love Fantastic Four. I've watched it several times now since it's been on Disney+. But if you compare, say, Pedro Pascal, the way he was written and his delivery in Fantastic Four, it is a lot different than the sure-footedness that was delivered by John Krasinski with his impression of Reed Richards and during the Multiverse of Madness.
That is true. That is true. This Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards did seem a little timid versus John Krasinski, who was very, very sure. He was a leader, in fact, you know?
Quite honestly, as a longtime reader of Reed Richards, John Krasinski, to me, had it a lot closer to the character. Now, at the time, we explained this by saying Pedro Pascal was younger. This is early Fantastic Four. He has a chance to grow into, but during that film, if you watch it, he certainly doesn't feel like the smartest person in the world, or at least resembling the confidence of the person who is that intelligent. The solve everything of it all didn't really come through, and we expect it to, but that is a lot to accomplish now with two characters. How that doesn't take up the entirety of the film, I'm not really sure, but there's a lot of work left to be done with.
They're going to find a way to do it. Think about all these teaser trailers that they've put out and the fact that we might get an official trailer at the Super Bowl. They have all these months where they can throw all this stuff out as little teasers, as little clips, as whatever. And it could all be shit that's actually not going to be in the movie. We can even see it, and then it can just not show up in the movie, and it'll still be fire.
Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards arc, and obviously all the work left to be done for Victor Von Doom's arc, and they've got one film to pull all that off, and it says it's going to be sort of explored in Secret Wars, which I expect, but it needs to be explored in Doomsday too. I simply don't know how they have the time. You guys let me know.
All right. I kind of agree with the boy All Fires, but Marvel, Disney, you guys have time. You're not gonna let us down like that. You know, Spider-Man, Doomsday, and Secret Wars, they have to hit. They're not gonna let us down, y'all. They cancel Blade. They know we're pissed. They're not gonna let us down, y'all. I don't know. Y'all tell me in the comments, man, what y'all think about that little plot leak for Secret Wars, man. Y'all let me know how y'all feeling about that. This was a great sesh. Sunday, episode 2, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms will be dropping. I'll be reviewing it. Reacting to it on next Monday as well. We're going to keep the week going. This has been another good sesh. It's another live episode of the Offenders Initiative podcast. Don't forget to like, kind of subscribe. It's your boy Slave DiBiase, man. We out.